am Rachel Lean. I'm going behind the brand with Dr. Zach Bush, and you are the founder and CEO of Biomic Sciences and Revolution Health Center. And you're an interesting character. You have you're triple board certified. Why did you get triple board certified?
Yes, I didn't leave high school and decide I was going to do 17 years of higher education. It was something that happened organically, if you will. Engineer kind of brain, thought I was going to go engineering, then ended up going to medicine. And the longer I studied medicine, the more I felt like I still wasn't getting the root project or the root cause of disease, still wasn't understanding really to help my patients heal. And so kept educating down the road to try to find out what that root was.
8 years at the University of Virginia. During that time, educating, you started to question pharmaceuticals studies, right?
Yeah, not just the studies, but actually the practice of pharmaceutical medicine. And so as you start to get involved in doing clinical trials and doing basic science, you start to realize that, wow, the statistics are really easy to lie with. They're easy to mislead the reader with. And so a lot of the marketing that we have around the pharmaceuticals make it sound like they're efficacious, make it sound they work for everybody, but in reality, the clinical trials show a very disappointing result. And as everybody's now reading in almost every journal that comes out, you know what, this stuff's not working, and my gosh, the harm of so many of these pharmaceuticals is enormous. So in practice of medicine, that can be very discouraging. You practice for 8-10 years with your patients and watch their health continue to plummet despite all of your efforts. It gets quite depressing at some point in that process. And so that was kind of the degeneration of my professional career at that point.
So then you decided to open up Revolution Health. What do you do there?
Revolution Health Center was something I tried to create in the academic environment at the university level, but that didn't work because the paradigm was that really nutrition was going to be able to heal everything, was the concept. And we were starting to hear a lot out of UCLA and other universities that the gut was actually the foundation of where health flowed from, and that nutrition was critical. Unbelievably, in 17 years of medical education, I had never been told anything about nutrition that was anything meaningful. I didn't even know, where does calcium come from? I assumed milk or cheese. I just didn't know. And so it was a long process of retraining myself and then my staff and all of us that work there now on how do we really rebuild the human from the gut level back up.
Without pharmaceuticals.
The pharmaceuticals have become obsolete so quickly. Disease is really a lack of health. And so as you create health, the disease process or the disorder that you're suffering, it takes care of itself. The body is such an intelligent system.
With that, Restore came into play, correct?
Yes, Restore really was an amazing discovery that was at its root very simple. I had been working in cancer research, and I was working a lot under the microscope trying to figure out how cancer cells die and what makes them die, and was working around these little things called mitochondria, which live inside our cells and produce fuel for the human cell. And so that cancer background and then going into nutrition, and was going through this process of putting all my patients on very intensive diets, lots of kale juicing, lots of green, whole food, organic, plant-based diet, everything else, and a lot of them were, within days to weeks manifesting amazing healing events. Not because the food was necessarily healing them, but their own system, once it came back up and going, was really starting to fuel a machine that was just programmed for wealth and health. But there was this huge segment that wasn't responding, and that's where Restore started to come in, as we were trying to figure out why is there this 50% that just don't respond no matter how many kale we put in, they don't feel better. In fact, many of them were feeling worse on a health food diet. And so you put kale or broccoli or whatever it is in their gut, and they felt bloating, headaches, inflammation, and they were getting worse. And so that started driving us down the question of what is gut health. And it turns out it remains very poorly defined in the field. And in that process, I started studying soil and understanding what is in the soil, what translates into the plant, then translates into the human. And in that process, found a carbon molecule that was in a white paper in agricultural science. And that carbon molecule looked a hell of a lot like the molecules that I had been using in the cancer realm. And so that was the discovery of what is now Restore. Wow, there's a carbon molecule made by bacteria that sets up a communication network between the species. And that communication network is really, once you got the information, the system knows how to heal itself.
Wow. So you believe you can restore all things through the gut? Most all things.
Yeah. I've yet to find one that doesn't get affected by the gut. And so you look at the spectrum that we see now around us in American epidemics, starts right from birth. You've got everything from colic and just the crying baby syndromes to all this attention deficit and autism in the children. but very early ages now seeing eczema, food allergies, food sensitivities, asthma. And then by the time we're in our kind of teens to 20s, we're seeing major depression, panic disorders, anxiety. And then by the time you're 20 to 30, you're seeing metabolic disorders, early type 2 diabetes, obesity, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and infertility, all these imbalances. You move to the 30s and 40s, you're starting to see real metabolic collapse, loss of muscle, loss of libido and sex drive, loss of sleep quality, vascular disease by the time you're in your 50s, cancer by the time you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. 1 in 2 Americans right now are going to be diagnosed with cancer before they die. The numbers are just stunning. And so this is chronic inflammation in a population.
But this bottle, what's in this bottle?
It's your front line of defense. And so it starts to feel like snake oil at some point. You know, when you're clinically using this stuff, you start saying, oh, the obvious ones, my irritable bowel syndrome or my patients with autoimmune stuff in the gut. Well, that's an easy first step. But what you see in almost anybody, in a healthy individual taking this stuff who thinks, oh, I'm really healthy, I don't have any problems. You take that for a couple weeks and the changes that can happen are pretty dramatic. The brain fog lifting is one of the most profound. And so I've got a patient who's a professor at the university level, years of this chronic brain fog. He's in his 60s, he was trying to lecture overseas. He just was really suffering from just inability to focus and keep the facts straight. Came to the clinic, had diabetes. I was listening to his story about his diabetes and everything else, told him about Restore. He didn't even mention his brain fog at that point. And took the supplement in my office. We were talking about some of his current issues. Left the office, and about 20 minutes up the road back towards home, brain fog lifts. And he's thinking, there's no way that correlates. That was a coincidence, whatever. He finishes out the bottle. A couple months later, starts complaining to his wife, this brain fog is just crippling and all this stuff. And then she comes back and is like, weren't you on a supplement for a while or anything? And he's like, you don't think. And goes, drives to the store, buys his other bottle in the parking lot, takes the Restore, brain fog lifts on his way home. So he's been on the product for a couple years now, brain fog free. So we are all suffering from inflammation and don't even realize it.
Well, if people want to learn more about Restore or purchase it, restoreforlife.com, correct?
Restore4life.com.
Well, thank you so much for going behind the brand with us today.
Thank you, Rachel.